Hello, I'm Beth. Welcome to today's mindfulness-based meditation. The theme of today's meditation is going to be on managing pain ASAP. Before I say a little bit more about that, I want to say a little bit about mindfulness meditation in general, especially if you've never joined me before or never practiced mindfulness before. So the idea of mindfulness simply means to direct our attentions in an intentional way. And as we do that, we're doing it with a sense of curiosity, with a sense of openness, with a sense of kindness toward ourselves or whatever we're trying to be mindful about. The idea of mindfulness is it is a practice. It is something that takes time. So although it can be very powerful, it's not an immediate effect. And you'll see that the ASAP today doesn't stand for as soon as possible, even though we all want pain to go away as soon as possible. I liken the idea of mindfulness to doing a bicep curl for our brains. So you know that when you do a bicep curl, even if you're lifting a super heavy weight, you're trying really hard, your bicep is not going to develop doing it one time or just a couple of times. It's going to make changes over time. It's going to involve you being persistent in practicing that skill, in that case a bicep curl, in this case the idea of mindfulness for your brain, in order to make new gains, to make changes. What we're going to try to do in this ASAP exercise is our ASAP here is allowing space around pain. So mindfulness helps us to pause, to move out of our autopilot, and to find some space. The importance of allowing space around pain, I think, is at least a little bit evident in this one analogy I've recently heard. It's the idea of if you drink a teaspoon of, or put a teaspoon of salt in a glass of water and drink it, it will be extremely unpleasant. If you put that teaspoon into a jug, a gallon of water, and drink that, it'll still be distasteful, but you've reduced the impact of it. And then think if you put that teaspoon into a whole freshwater lake and had to take a taste of that, that much dilutes the effect, that ability that we have to create space. We can't change the thing, in this case, the salt or the pain, but we can change the space around it, how we react to it. This meditation is appropriate for those who are dealing with chronic physical pain, temporary physical pain like a headache, or emotional pain, heartache, or other types of pain. I'll focus mainly on physical pain, but I think it'll be obvious how you can incorporate those other types of pain if that's what's relevant for you today. So let's start this meditation by making ourselves as comfortable as possible. And if you're in any type of pain, of course, it might be hard to get comfortable. Do whatever you need to do. Bring in pillows to support your body. Lie down if that is better for you. The idea is simply that we allow ourselves whatever support we need in order to relax a little bit into this exercise while still being alert. And so as you start to settle in, you might notice that immediately your attention goes to whatever is causing you pain. So if you have a headache, you might notice a throbbing in your head. If you're feeling hurt or grieving, you might notice a tightness in your belly or your chest, that sense of loss. These first few moments, we are allowing ourselves to simply notice, observe, acknowledge wherever the pain manifests in our body. See if you can find a way to label the pain in your head as you observe it. So rather than the blanket label of pain, what specific sensation can you pinpoint? For example, when I mentioned headache, the way that you might note that is throbbing, pounding, tightness. If it's an emotional pain, where do you feel that in your body? That also might be a tightness, maybe in your chest. Maybe it's a bit of unsettledness in your stomach. Observe and notice, noting your pain. Your pain is valid. We're not trying to avoid or get rid of it or pretend it's not there. Remember, we're trying to take space around it first by noticing that it's actually there. And we're going to, now that we've noticed and observed, practice a little bit of shifting. So the shifting involves moving your attention somewhere else. Let's stay with the body. So if there's a headache, if there's pain in the head, moving your attention to something in your body that feels neutral. So I might have a headache, but as I draw my attention, say, down to my hand feels okay. So I'll notice, I can even rub my fingertips together, notice how my hand feels. That sensation of pain in my head will still be there. That's fine. That's expected. We're not trying to make that go away. And if your attention gets drawn back, you can acknowledge the sensation in the same way you did before with whatever is going on, throbbing, tightness. And then with kindness to yourself for being distracted by your pain, because that's a normal thing, gently draw your attention back to the neutral thing, your fingertips, your elbow. Now, if you have a hard time noticing somewhere in your body that it doesn't feel painful, sometimes that's the case. We feel like we hurt full body-wise. Then in that case, you can shift to a different kind of sensation. For example, you might notice warmth or coolness in your body. If you have your feet in fuzzy slippers, do your feet feel warm? So it's shifting to a slightly different sensation. The other option is, instead of using our touch or our feel sense, shifting to one of our other 4 senses. You have 5 altogether. So shifting from how something feels to something else in your body. One obvious thing is my voice. You can hear my voice. And simply focusing as much as possible on my voice as I talk, knowing that your attention will shift back to the painful thing and that that's normal. A similar option is using your sight. So if you're looking at me as you do this exercise, making contact with my eyes, shifting your attention to something in my background or in the background of your room, choosing a particular color. It might be a sensation of smell. Maybe you just cleaned and there's a lemony, fresh smell in the air. So we start to create this sense of space by shifting to other things within the body. Other things that are going on that may not be positive, they might simply be neutral. So the sense of my elbow is pretty neutral. The sense of my feet feeling warm and cozy in slippers, that might be a little bit more positive, pleasurable. Either is okay. We're allowing there to be room for the pain with other things that are going on. So it'll be painful, and then other things, some will be pleasurable and some will be just neutral. So our next step is to move from shifting our attention to self-reference to a wider space around our bodies. Awareness of things in the room, sticking with this idea of shifting the attention to things that are neutral or perhaps pleasurable. So we move from noticing and observing within ourselves to shifting our attention, first staying on ourselves, and then shifting or expanding our attention to the wider area around us. We continue to do that with our senses. So if you have, say, soft music playing in the background, that might be a background thing that you notice. You shift your attention to the front brain, the immediately present thing of your pain, to something going on in the background. I also started to talk about how to do this with your sight, starting to look around your room and maybe drawing your attention to naming things in your room or picking out a specific category, looking around and noticing all the green things in your room. It could be something you see, something you hear, the sense of smell that's a little bit internal and external. You can deliberately shift to the sensation of taste by making yourself a cup of tea or taking a few pieces of dried fruit or a chocolate. And as you sip the tea or eat the chocolate, really being mindful of what you smell, what you taste in that experience. Maybe even adding the sense of feeling of the food in your mouth, the crunchiness or the softness of it, the warmth of the tea as it goes down your throat. So these are all alternate sensations that we're exploring, that we're looking for as we mindfully move our attention around. Now again, remember that there will be times that your mind goes back to your pain. That is not doing it wrong. That is completely normal. The key part of a mindfulness exercise is noticing that, going back to the beginning. It's okay to go back to the beginning again and again. So noticing where your attention has shifted, observing without criticism, without judgment, just with a sense of curiosity and almost a sense of neutrality, as if you were an outside observer of what's going on. And that's where the naming comes in, naming it as throbbing, tight. And then deliberately saying, okay, that's how that exists. That's there. The pain is there, not invalidating it, being aware of it, deliberately choosing to direct your attention elsewhere, either elsewhere within your own body or elsewhere to the external environment. And as we take these last few moments, I'll add in that one place to direct your attention is toward your breath, only if the feeling of breath is neutral or pleasurable. So we hear this idea of using the breath, and absolutely the breath can be a good thing to use, but not if it's difficult for you to take a breath, not if observing your breath is uncomfortable, not if the pain lies in your breathing at all. So those things are not going to help. If your breath is something that's neutral for you, something that feels pleasurable, then yes, you can notice the sensations of your breath, maybe even put your hands on your own body. Feel your breath as it moves in and out of your body. Draw your attention there through the feeling of your breath, perhaps the sound of your breath. You hear yourself breathing in and out. So the breath can be a neutral sensation and one that we potentially can even take some pleasure in our bodies, even when our bodies are hurting in other ways. And if during the last few moments of this exercise, your attention went back to the painful area, know that that's okay, and see if one more time you can allow yourself, permit yourself to gently redirect. Even though the background music of your pain, that unpleasant, unwanted background music is still going to be there, we have the ability to learn to develop the skill of removing our attention and focusing it on something else. So I hope that you found this to be a useful exercise. I encourage you to be gentle with yourself, to remember that mindfulness is a skill that can take time to develop. Absolutely, you can do it. Give yourself time to do that and see if it helps. Definitely comment down below if this is useful, and also feel free to make suggestions for other mindfulness meditations that you would like to see. Thank you and enjoy the rest of your day.